I'm gonna call this video Keep Pushing. Alright team, there's a bunch of stuff that I really want to sort of talk about today, just things I'm kind of passionate about and speaking to me at the moment. I really think that the number one thing that's keeping me happy and successful at the moment, and I really think all of us should be applying the best we can, is staying consistent. I know it's the type of thing gets said over and over and over again, but I really do feel that that is the Krabby Patty secret formula. That is the secret sauce, right? If you stay consistent, I really think that is one of these key routes to happiness, right? You're going to feel fulfilled and you're going to be making progress, even if it doesn't feel like it. So if you can kind of recognize that, hey, I'm being consistent, I know that means progress, even if I can't see the progress, that's going to give the fulfillment, that's going to give the happiness, that's going to give the purpose, that's going to give the whatever. And I really do think that this can be sort of applied, and I aim to apply this to all walks of life, but I do really think that you'll notice that kind of measurable difference, specifically if you're consistent with things like whatever your work is, right? So whether that is your art, your music, your content, whatever it is, right? I don't really love that word content because it makes everything sound like, just content, just thing, but whatever. Hopefully you know what I mean. Fitness and I guess like mindset as well, because I do think mindset is really measurable. I do really think that's measurable as well. But whenever I've made the most progress or had the biggest wins, it's been after long periods of consistently showing up, right? Whether that's, training for a race or training for some sort of event, or whether that is trying to develop myself specifically in one skill or make some sort of product or project or whatever. It's all been from consistently showing up. So I kind of wanted to talk about this out loud for myself, to kind of reaffirm it for myself, but also to talk to other people who might get some value from hearing this, and also kind of putting it out into the world of that sort of being my intention, and then maybe other people will kind of come my way and we can sort of talk about it. So the things that I've been doing that are working for me right now, and obviously there's no kind of silver bullet, right? But I would really recommend you all create some sort of daily, weekly guidelines, goals, and do your absolute best to stick to them, right? I don't think leaving things to chance of I want to do this thing and then just hoping it's going to happen. It's not going to happen. You really do need to sort of and I've been learning this in the art lessons, right? You need to plan, you need to prepare, and then you need to execute, because ideas are cheap. Everybody's got these sort of ideas, but to actually do something and act upon them, you've really got to kind of stick to that plan that you initially made, which of course can be adjusted depending on your goals or your desires, but it needs to be there. I mean, what could this be? I mean, if you're interested in this sort of thing, it could be literally posting one YouTube video every Sunday, right? It could be, if you're trying to you acquire a new skill or something, it could be, or even just for, changing your mindset and things like that. It could be reading 10 pages of a book every day. It could be walking 10K steps every day if you live kind of a sedentary lifestyle and you're trying to get more active. It could be if you've got, mindset issues. It could be writing 3 things you're grateful for each morning before, checking your phone. I think it's a good sign for me when the phone's kind of far away from me. You know what I mean? Because it shows that I'm a bit more present in whatever activity I'm doing. It could be, if you're trying to work on things with your metabolism, maybe it's fasting until 1 p.m. every day. If you're interested in, kind of networking or promoting or showing off whatever thing you're making, it could be posting an Instagram story every day. It could be posting 2 reels and 2 photos per week on Instagram. It could be cutting out biscuits and sweet treats you have around the house, replacing them with fruit. It could be scripting, or planning, your art or your video or your whatever that content is on a nice relaxing Saturday or Sunday morning, or whatever time you have, for the week ahead. If you implement these little habits, man, and I'm saying habits there because we're saying consistency, right? I can guarantee you'll win. I promise you, man. Life doesn't have to be hard. It can be simple, and all you need to do is kind of show up every day and be consistent, right? And of course, we all have our like limiting factors and these things which are, reducing. But if we look at the, within the realm of things that we can control, we can kind of make the things that we control to be really simple and really, really powerful with sort of consistency. Also, I do think thinking about those sort of limiting factors and whatever, and those parts of your life which, you see as something you don't control, or you definitely see as something you don't vibe with, right? If you're doing something you really don't enjoy every day, I would be trying to figure out an exit plan. All right, because do you want to be spending your whole life doing that? How soon can you get out of that job situation? How much money can you save before you can leave there, or this living situation, or whatever? Can you move in with a friend or family members to save money? What are the skills do you have that you're good at, or you're working on, that you can monetize or use as some sort of thing that people can rely on you for? I mean, I have a lot of people in kind of like this YouTube-y thing, and they've been saying like, oh, hey Rex, like, if you learn editing, you can use that for like other things as well, because like I learned editing and now I also use it for like these things for like promotion in my day job or whatever as well. So, what can you kind of do? It's sometimes in that regard though, you do need to take a few steps back to move forward, right? That like, oh, I have to like, I'm gonna move away from this kind of, seemingly good thing, because I really don't enjoy it, and stay back and then start at a lower level at something else and kind of move up again. But I do think that's the way, rather than being trapped in something for like your entire life, right? So I don't know. Siren alarm. Please be conscious and aware of how you spend your time each day, and like, are you actually happy, right? Are you working on something that you care about? And if not, make a plan to escape it. And I really do think that a lot of people are starting to communicate around this channel and on Discord and whatever. I do think we're sort of building up an incredible community, which I'd really like to see grow. And I think within that community, we can kind of have endless opportunities between us, of projects or whatever that we're working on. So I think if you're ever sort of stuck or confused, I think it would be really cool to, kind of use this channel and use this community for help and guidance, whether it's something that I know about or someone else knows about, because we all got kind of like these different skills and competencies, which is really badass and cool. And I really think, please do that. Whether you take the route of like talking through this channel, or whether you go like to different people to talk to, whatever. If you're looking at that life now, and you're thinking like, I really don't enjoy these aspects and I feel trapped in them, please do something about it, man, because I do not want any of you to be like stuck or suffering or doing something you hate for like really prolonged periods of times. I know that sometimes that can be like an inevitability in your life, and you have those periods, but we only live once. And I really think that like moving towards and striving for a situation to kind of reduce or eliminate those kind of things in your life is the thing you need to do, man. And I guess that kind of leads directly into my next point, is kind of like networking, right? And kind of like getting to know people who are also on journeys of like trying to get stuff. And I've done this within like fitness, or within like carpentry, or within like engineering, or within music, right? And I'm starting to do this with art at the moment, because I'm trying to learn traditional art. You've really got to put yourself out there, and you need to make sure that you can be seen and you can be heard, right? You need to ask questions, you need to be curious, you need to be interested. And if you're not those things, then maybe that's not the avenue for you, and you need to find your thing. Because when you find your thing, it feels right. You know what I mean? But if you're in a position where it's like, I don't want to get out there and be seen and heard, I don't want to be out there and ask questions or be curious and kind of learn more and be the sponge that takes things in, then maybe like that topic or that thing is like, it's not the thing for you, But kind of on that sort of matter, it's like when I see other people killing it, I start like following what they're doing and trying to like, mine that for nuggets, right? I try to watch how they work. If it's something they're like publicly doing online, I what they post, I'll DM them and start a conversation, try and create a connection. Just be like, hey, dude, like I love what you're doing, and I want to do that sort of stuff too. I want to learn from you, um, you know, because some people have time for that and whatever, and some people don't, and that's all fine. And you're not doing this from some sort of like social parasite, like trying to like drain from them. It's just like when you want to find something out, you ask someone. It's like, hey, dude, will you help me? And most people are really down to help when you're generally coming from that position of like, oh, I can see this person is like curious and interested in this thing that like I live by and I love. So I don't know. Later down the line, if I got questions to ask to see if I can figure out what they are doing or how they started, how they became so successful in whatever field we're talking about, whether it's somebody who just like you see every day on Instagram and they go on cycle loads. And it's like, dude, like, how did you start this? How did you move your way up these levels, So, I don't know. And I do think that, now obviously this is, again, you have limiting factors kind of, reducing this for you, but I really think that like, being places like here in Madrid or when I'm back in England or, when I was in Seoul or when I was in Berlin or, that time in summer where I was, fortunate enough to travel around Northern Europe for like kickboxing, right? When you're kind of like in these locations, surrounded by like other sort of young people who are going for it, like I kind of don't want to use the word like entrepreneur, but like, I don't know, like entrepreneur, creators, athletes, people who are like, people of action, right? It's really just like so inspiring to be around them, and you get to ask these questions in like real life. And once you start to build these like real, like, like obviously not with everybody, and you don't want to be like forcing these sort of like fake friendships and whatever, but once you become friends and like with these certain people who have that sort of shared connection with you and you're in people's trust, they start to open up with you and they'll tell you some of their like, their secrets, some of the things they learned, like they want to share with you of how they're successful. It's like really just like being in the presence of people who are already killing it sort of motivates you more than anything to push yourself further and harder. And it's really why I'm like, I'm so excited, like, specifically kind of my case study, my example at the moment that I can really sort of relate to you, because you can see it happening, right? Because I'm being very public about the effort I'm putting in, right? Is the kind of stuff I'm doing with art and getting like DMs on Twitter or people talking to me in the Discord or people talking to me in the live chats who have like these expertise, and like I can see where they are and I can see their like guiding light of like they can do this really like badass piece, right? It's just like so freaking motivating to me, and it kind of creates this kind of nice balance of, because I do want to sort of talk about isolation a little bit, right? Is if you are really like isolated in like a city or a town or a country or a really like close net, even if we want to go digital, like a really close like online community that's really just like far removed from where like the proverbial action is happening, you're gonna find it like a hell of a lot harder to get noticed, to share your music, to get involved in projects with others, whatever you're doing. And it's like you really do need to get like out of your comfort zone and place yourself where the action is happening. And but however, that doesn't need to be permanent, right? Like you can't like be saying like, oh, I'm gonna like lock myself in here in like the heart of the Southern California punk rock and skate scene and just like live that 24/7. I mean, like that's wild. That's intense, You can do this stuff and treat this stuff kind of in seasons, which I do. I used to really battle the seasons and used to try and live my entire life the same way the entire year. You can't fight nature. You have kind of these ebbs and flows where, like summer's more like get out there, and then winter is more, reflective and slow down and more for those sorts of activities. And I kind of treat my own sort of, again, I don't really want to use this sort of self-improvement because I know it's kind of got these like toxic connotations attached to it, but whatever skill I'm trying to cultivate or whatever my project in mind is at the moment, I kind of treat that in seasons. Like when I really lock in like I can really use like here in Madrid as like a really good base, right? Because I I've got friends, right? But honestly, I don't have like this like huge like party scene of friends or anything like that. So my distractions are quite low. Do you know what I mean? I don't actually have that like temptation to be like like that real big sort of like party thing. I'll usually just sort of like sit myself down for like blocks of time, whether it's here or whether it's in like a working space or whether it's like, you know, in a public library or whatever. Because I do quite often, I do get lonely sometimes, so I do kind of like to be surrounded by other people. And you know, I can do these like periods of like really locking in and working on, you know, various projects. Some of the stuff I talk about here, some of the stuff I don't, because it's like whatever, you know. And do that for like a month or two at a time, you know, and you know, sometimes like reward myself in the middle of the day with you know, like a good workout or a trip to like a bouldering center or head down to the skate park or, you know, like a nice dinner at a restaurant. Do you know what I mean? Or, you know, even just street food. Like those sorts of things. Like it's just like, oh, like focusing in and working hard and then having those little like rewards, which are, you know, in themselves also stuff I'm kind of working towards. I don't know, man. I feel that life is simple and is enjoyable and I get so much like work done. And I'm not talking about like hustle culture work, just like work that I like and work that I enjoy done with like when when I get that done, I just feel so good. You know what I mean? And I follow this like really basic routine, and it makes me really happy. And that's what vibes with me. You know, I'm just saying that maybe it could with you as well. And maybe you've got advice on how I can refine mine even further because it's all a work in progress. It's all a whip, you know. But you know, however, I couldn't live like that like all the time more than a few months, or else I'd potentially get bored. You know, so when I go really sort of like creatively dry, and I really want sort of new ideas, I really like to network. I really like to meet new people and putting myself in places where I'm surrounded by other people of that sort of mindset, like musicians, artists, creators, and I get like the opportunity sometimes to like work with those, or I go to a new workshop to like, you know, learn, you know, the carpentry techniques of that region, or I go up to like San Sebastian and, you know, I learn like French Basque cuisine or whatever. I go to a different gym of a different martial arts and, you know, in a different, you know, country and learn kind of their disciplines. It's just really good for just kind of like my exposure to the world and meeting new people as well. I don't know. I've only really started to live kind of like intentionally in this way. Like I've been living this way, I guess, on and off for a few years. But really, it's been like the last year or so when I've kind of really sort of analyzed the things that work and kind of turned those into the routines and whatever. And it's absolutely elevated my life in every single way. You know, of like kind of like consciously and deliberately doing that for the past year or whatever it's been. You know, I'm trying to work out the timeline here of when that happened. A year and a half ago, I was at like a really low point that I hadn't hit for quite some time, to be honest. I'm not gonna say it's like the lowest point in my life, right? But I hit this kind of real low point, maybe like, you know, 18 months ago or whatever. But right now I think I can sort of easily say that I'm at one of the like maybe like the highest and happiest point in my life, at least for kind of like feeling content and feeling proud of myself, because that's actually something that I struggled with for a really really long time, of like kind of having a sense of like self-worth or even self-respect. Um, and it takes a lot of work. It took a lot of work to get here. It still continually takes a lot of work to remain here, you know, and I'm going to include like discipline and dedication in that. But I'm kind of in this position of course, I have, you know, wants and desires and goals, but I think it's more important to me to be the type of person who has the the drive and the intention and the plan to get there, rather than being the person who immediately has that stuff. And I think that's kind of putting me in a position to where honestly I look at other people and envy's quite low at the moment. It's because it's not a place of comparison. It's not like I'm not envious of them because I think I'm better than them. I'm just not envious of them because I'm not even like doing that sort of comparison, or at least that comparison is coming like to much lower levels than it used to be before. Because the competitive nature of me, and if that can get like toxic and personal and stuff like that, is fairly prominent, or it was fairly prominent, and I've worked on it quite a lot. You know what I mean? The point I'm trying to make there is I feel I'm in a position right now where I wouldn't trade my life with anyone in the world. I'm content with who I am. I'm content with what I'm doing, and I have grand goals of where I want to be. But I believe I'm the person who can get myself there. And these are just kind of things that have helped me. And kind of the people I want to surround myself with. I don't know, man. Happy Sunday, team. Get in touch, man. Get in touch. Let's keep pushing, man.